Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashf Kamran and today I'm having a discussion with you when to use models in SBL answer. I will be giving you a detailed insight about the type of strategy the student can adopt when you look at different types of questions in SBL, and I will be giving you some examples to help you understand this perspective. Firstly, it is very important for all of you to understand that SBL exam is assessed through a practical and an analytical lens, prioritizing application over theoretical or technical explanation. You need to understand that sooner. You need to understand that this is a paper where you are a strategic business leader. This is a paper where the paper is being assessed through the analytical lens. You need to analyze, you need to evaluate, you need to take judgments, you need to share your perspective in the paper. And you need to prioritize application. You need to prioritize the case. You need to prioritize the information in the case over theoretical explanation. Now, that's the focus of this paper. You need to understand this. Therefore, the candidates will not receive marks for detailing models unless they are directly and specifically applied to the case study presented in the exam. Look at the bullet number 2. At times, the student forcefully apply a model when model isn't the best answer. At times, you see a requirement and the model is given in the requirement, or the hint of the model is given in the requirement, and the student pick the model definitely, or the student pick the hint of the model and then apply the model. That's very good. But not in every requirement of SBL you can forcefully apply a model or unnecessarily detail a model, explain a model which is useless, because you need to understand the requirement. You need to understand, is the requirement specifically asking for a model or not? And I'll be showing you examples. So please ensure you focus on the bullet number 2 a lot. Additionally, there are limited marks available for generic answers that lack specifications or anything that is contextual relevance. Generic has no space in SBL. Everything needs to be applied, everything needs to be adapted, everything needs to be tailored according to the situation, according to the information given in the exam, in the exhibits, and in the pre-scene. And you need to contextualize everything. You cannot just put generic stuff which has no linkage with the information given into the exam paper, whether it's in pre-scene or it's in exhibits. If you just write journal benefits of like big data, or if you write journal challenges of cybersecurity you have learned from the articles, is of no use unless and until those benefits and challenges are like tailored in the context of the information given to you on the day of exam. So any student who prioritize application over theoretical knowledge will pass the paper. Any student who realistically read the requirement and see whether the requirement is specifically asking for a model application or has given you a hint of a model application, then you will go down doing it in that particular model. Otherwise than that, model isn't the best answer in SBL, and there is no space of generic stuff. Now let's come to the main agenda of this discussion today. We just built a perspective, and in this perspective, we'll be looking at the equations in the SBL paper to understand when and when not to use a model in the paper. Now, this is very important, and then I'll show you a glimpse of the past papers. Models and frameworks can be used in the SBL exam in two ways. Number one, when either the exhibit or the requirement has directed the candidate to use a model or a framework. Look at this very carefully, what's written here, because students at times don't read things well. When either the exhibit or the requirement. So at times, uh, the hint of a model is given in the requirement. At times, the hint of a model is given in the exhibit. So when you read the requirement, you might not be sure of a model to use. But when you start reading the exhibit, from the exhibit, you get a hint that this particular requirement is to be solved under this model. So at times you get a hint in the requirement and no hint in the exhibit, or at times you get no hint in the requirement and you get a hint in the exhibit. So you need to be very specific about ensuring that requirement and exhibits are read well to understand whether there is a specific application of a model or not. But if you read the requirement and if you read the exhibit and you find no relevance of a model, don't forcefully apply a model, because in that scenario, what I always tell my student, model isn't the best answer. Number two, in some cases where no framework or no model is hinted at or named, candidates have two options. When you read the requirement and you don't got any hint of a model, you don't got any name of a model, or when you read the exhibit, you don't find any hint of a model, any name of a model in the exhibit, then you have two options. Number one, use any appropriate and relevant model they can think of, the students can think of, right? They can think of that may help in developing their answer. Now, a student needs to take a decision when there is no hint given of a model, no hint given of a framework, either in exhibit or requirement. Then you have to decide that can I choose a model in which I can relate my answer? Now you can take a judgment, you can exercise a judgment. Sometimes you spontaneously get an idea in the exam paper that if I use this, I can present a real good answer. Now that's your decision making. That's your like alertness in the exam hall, that you immediately recall something and you said, okay, if I put my answer in this model, even though the model has not been asked, I can give a realistic good answer. Go do it. The SBL examining team is not creating any hindrance for that. But the second situation is answer without using any model. If no hint is given of a model, no hint is given of a framework, either in the exhibit, either in the requirement, then you can answer without using any framework or model. Student should avoid using wrong models of framework. Please, that's important. Either you click a model and you think this is a realistic model, even though no hint of a model is given in the scenario, go and use it. But please remember, using a wrong model in a worst case scenario, avoid that. Better not to use a model in the answer when no hint is given. When no hint is given either in the exhibit or requirement, I will prefer this. I will prefer this. I will not prefer this if no hint is given. Yes, if hint is given, then you are here. Then you are here. So is everyone clear on this? Hint given or hint not given? Is everyone sound on that? So I'll show you examples of past paper where you do get hint either in the requirement or in the exhibit, and you go about doing the answer in the same way. And at times you read the exhibit and you read the requirement and you say, I can't pick the model, I can't pick the framework. Then it's very natural that you will do the answer without it. Is this illustration clear to all of you? Should I give you some examples from the past papers to illustrate the situation number one, where a model name, a framework name can be picked from the requirement or the exhibit, and the second situation where you can't pick it? Is everyone clear with this illustration on your screen? Please confirm me before we move on. Okay, thank you so much, Imran, for that confirmation. I hope the rest of you are also clear on this understanding when to use model, when not to use model, right? Okay, just let's move on and see the application. Thank you, Muhammad Ali Raza. Thank you, Prakhar, for that confirmation. Let's just move on. Thank you, Bilal, as well. Okay, just let me show you some of the examples. I was reading through an Examiner article from where I got the inspiration to make this presentation for all of you. I would like to share that with all of you on your screen. I hope you can see on your screen what's written here. Models and frameworks in SBL exam. This is what has been written by the SBL examiner. I took my perspective from it and I thought it's important that my students who are appearing for exams should be well versed with it. And in this particular article, the examining team is telling us about when and when not to use models and frameworks in the answer. Now, see, this is the heading over here. When to use models in answers. They're giving you two perspectives. When exhibit or requirement has directed the candidate to use the model. So when you're reading an exhibit or you're reading a requirement and that particular exhibit or requirement has directed you to use a framework or a model, then do it. Or number two, when in some cases where no framework or model is named or hinted in the exhibit or requirement, then you have two options. Either you choose one yourself or you don't use the model or framework. I've just given you that illustration on my presentation. Now, just let's look at an example one. This is an example one. And in this example one, it gives you something down. This is basically the exhibit. And in the exhibit, you have been given the risk assessment. And under the risk assessment in the exhibit, you have been given the TARA model: reduce, avoid, accept, transfer, likelihood, and impact. Now, this is given in the exhibit. Now, the exhibit is giving you information about risk, and the exhibit is giving you information about the TARA model. Now, when you read the requirement says prepare an email response to the chair of the audit committee, which assess how the risk assessment framework could be applied to the risk included in the latest risk assessment. Now, look at this. The question is asking you how the risk assessment framework could be applied to the risk included in the latest risk assessment report. Now, when you go and read the exhibit, you will become very sure that the risk assessment framework, which the examining team is referring to, is basically what? Is basically the TARA framework. Is basically the transfer, acceptance, reduce, and avoid. So is everyone clear that at times you read a requirement and the requirement is telling you about a risk assessment framework? There are so many risk assessment frameworks, right? Even the COSO ERM. But if the exhibit would not have given me the TARA model, I could have used any. But now the exhibit is giving me the TARA model, so I have to use the TARA model in terms of my application to this answer. So do you all agree that in this example one, the framework has been specifically given in the exhibit, not in the requirement? So any student who will present the answer in any other framework and will ignore the TARA model, that will not be a good answer. Is everyone sound and clear? So you have to read the requirements and you have to see what exactly is happening in the exhibit. Both together will help you identify whether a model is to be used or not. Now, over here, the requirement was bit blur, but when you saw the exhibit made it very clear that which of the model you have to use in the answer. Now, let's take another example. Go down, example two. Now, look at the example two. In the example two, you have been given an exhibit, and in the exhibit, you have been given the pest analysis compiled by the operation director. Now, you're reading this exhibit, and in the exhibit, suppose you have been given a pest analysis, which the operation director has done. Political, economic, social, and technological. Now, even when you look at the exhibit, you will think, oh, the answer has to be done in the pest model. But you have to read the requirement, then only you can conclude. Requirement and exhibit both have to be read, then only you can conclude on which is the right model to go ahead. Just like in the previous requirement, it was saying risk assessment framework, but we didn't know which one. But when we read the requirement, we got clear that it is a Tara model. Now, over here in the exhibit number 1, we have been given a pest analysis, but let's see the requirement to conclude whether we have to use pest or not. You go down and you look at the requirement. Write a memo to the board which evaluates the current strategic position of the company and the risk posed by the external business environment. Who will give me the answer for this question? Write a memo which evaluates the current strategic position and the risk posed by the external business environment. Do you believe external business environment is the best? Do you all believe that external business environment is the best? Right? Where do risks come from? I've always told my students in lecture that risk comes from the external environment. Risk comes from the political environment, economic environment, social environment, technological environment. That's from where the risk comes from. And the risk posed by the external environment. So do you believe the exhibit number 1 will help me identify the risk posed? Will the exhibit number 1 help me with the identification of the risk posed? Right? But what about this current strategic position of the company? Because that's the second requirement. So the question is not just asking you to evaluate the risk. The question is also asking you to evaluate the current strategic position. Current strategic position. Now, when you look at the word current strategic position, the current strategic position means your current, the current in terms of the strength and weaknesses. Current is always your strength and weaknesses, right? Risk and opportunities is always the best, because pest can be a source of risk, pest can be a source of opportunities. The examining team is saying the risk posed by external environment. So you will read the exhibit number 1 and you will read the political, economic, social, and technological environment to identify the risk. But what about the current strategic position? The current strategic position is your strength and your weaknesses. Look at this word here, current. Current means now. Current means today. Where am I standing today in terms of my strengths, in terms of my weaknesses? So that means this answer is to be done partially in looking into the strengths and weaknesses and then risk. So I will give 3 headings in the answer. Strengths, I will put my heading current strategic position. Under the current strategic position, I will evaluate my strength and weaknesses. Then I will give the next heading, risk posed by external environment. Then I'll keep writing the risk which is coming from the external environment. No opportunities, right? Only risk, no opportunities. Is that clear to all of you? Are you all clear? So this question in the exam hall, when you look at the word risk posed by the external environment, I hope 100% of the student picked that the external environment is the pest and the pest was given in the exhibit. Yes, definitely, Imran, because you have been given pest, right? Why the examining team is giving you pest? Examining team is giving you pest for the risk posed by external environment. So you will get 50% of the answer, 50% of the answer from the exhibit number one. Clear? But when you evaluate the current strategic position, where will you get the current strategic position? You will need to read the information given to you in the exhibit about strengths and weaknesses. Or the strengths and weaknesses could come from the pre-seen information. You might have read the pre-seen and you know, okay, these are the strengths and these are the weaknesses. So you will write about the strengths and weaknesses. So is 100% answer coming from best? Agree or disagree? Is 100% answer coming from best? No. Best is opportunities and threat. I normally tell my student that if you look at the SWOT analysis, in SWOT analysis, the opportunities and threat is external business environment. Agree? Opportunities and threat is external business environment. Agree with this statement? All of you? Opportunities and threat has a connection with external business environment, right? And strength and weaknesses is my own, is my own. So that's my current strategic position. Where am I as a business? Where am I standing today as a business? My strengths and my weaknesses. So my present is S and W. My future is opportunities and threats, which comes from the external business environment. So even this question give us a hint of the model. Even this question give us a hint of a model, right? Okay, now let's go on further. Okay, can you see the practice platform in front of your screen, all of you? Can you all see the practice platform in front of your screen? Okay, now we're looking into the September-December 24 paper. Can you see the September-December 24 paper on your screen? Just take an example more broadly here. And we're looking into models and frameworks in SBL, right? When to use, when not to use. Okay, just let's go down. Prakhar, we cannot use the whole SWOT because we don't need to pick the opportunities. We only need to pick the current position. The current position is always the strength and weaknesses. And examining team was saying the risk post. Then why would I give the whole SWOT? Why would I give the whole SWOT? I don't need to write opportunities, Prakhar. Do I need to write the opportunities in the answer? If the question would have said risk and opportunities post, then I would have closed my eyes and put the SWOT answer. But examining team is only saying risk, not the opportunities. So can I give the full SWOT model? Prakhar, waiting for your answer. Can I give the whole SWOT model? Right? No. But if the question would have said risk and opportunities post, then you could have given the whole SWOT. Right? Good. Okay, now look at the task number 1 on your screen. This is from the September-December 24 paper. Now, I will be asking you questions, so just hold down your... Okay. Look at this question number 1 from the September-December 24 exams. This question asks you, prepare a report to the CFO which assess what? Which assess Biago current service portfolio to determine appropriate strategies to manage the portfolio effectively. You need to assess the current portfolio of Biago, and you need to find the right strategies to manage the portfolio. Now, for any organization, the portfolio means either the product portfolio or the service portfolio, what you're offering. So this organization is a service organization. So they have a service portfolio. So you need to assess the current service portfolio and you need to determine the strategy to manage the portfolio. Now, over here, there is no hint of a model. Some of the students who are clever enough can even think about a model, but there is no clear hint. I can just solve the question looking at the current service portfolio, whatever the service portfolio this company has, and I can just evaluate it in terms of the goods and the bads. And I can then just put the strategy how they can effectively manage the portfolio without a model. But when I look at the exhibit, okay, can you see the exhibit number 1 over here, which has portfolio information? When I open the portfolio information and I look at the portfolio information, how many services they have in the portfolio? Ride sharing, ride hailing, micro mobility, and business services. And when I look at the table is telling me about the market activity, the market growth rate, the market growth rate of ride sharing. And the table is telling me not just the market growth rate of the ride sharing, it's also telling me the current market share of my business. The current market share, and it's telling me about the market growth. Now, if you're a clever student and you have studied SBL for your exams, the moment you see service portfolio and the moment you see I have been given two things, market growth and market share, and you go down into the next one. Again, you see market growth, market share. Again, you go down and you see market growth, market share. Again, you go down, market growth, market share. Now, any weaker student would also identify that because I've been given the market growth and the market share, and the examining team is asking for current service portfolio and the strategies to manage them, this current service portfolio is the BCG model, is the BCG metrics. You're all right. So, are you getting my perspective? It's not just the requirement which gives you the hint of the model. At times, the requirement also gives you the hint of the model. But at times, you have to read the exhibit to get the hint. Now, over here, we read the exhibit and we got the hint, all of us, that it's the BCG metrics. So you need to apply the BCG metrics in the answer. Is everyone clear? Even in the question I was showing you before, where we have to use the risk framework, risk assessment framework, when we went into the exhibit, the risk assessment framework was the Tara model. And we all picked, okay, we have to use the Tara model. Okay, just let's go on to the next one. Look at this one. Task number 2. Now you read the task number 2 and it tells you, prepare a report to the CFO which evaluates how the value created from the food delivery proposal would be reported in the 6 capitals of the Biago integrated report. How would the value created from the food delivery business would be reported in the 6 capitals of integrated report? Now, everyone's sure that we have to give the answer for 6 capitals. We need to link the financial capital with the value created. We need to link the manufactured capital. We need to link the intellectual capital. We need to link the human capital with the value created. So we have to give 6 capitals as headings. And under the 6 capitals, we need to link the information given about the food delivery proposal and how the value created by the food delivery proposal will be reported under the 6 capitals. Now we're very sure which model to use at the very upfront without even reading the exhibit. Is that clear to all of you? In the next requirement, you have to use the 4 non-financial key performing indicators. So that's pretty clear that over here, you not need to evaluate the financial side. You need to evaluate the non-financial side. So 4 non-financial indicators might be given in the pre-scene because we know pre-scene always give you the KPIs. Even if you're looking at the recent pre-scene, which is around historical places for March 25 exams, you would have seen the KPIs given for the charitable sector. So you need to know the KPIs because at times the question can ask you, assess the performance of the companies using the KPIs. And over here, they're asking you the non-financial KPIs. So you can recall them from the pre-scene. And the pre-scene is given to you on the day of exam as well. If you forgot, you can go back and refer. You move to the last task. And the last task asks you, the task number 3, it simply asks you prepare 2 presentation slides with accompanying notes which assess the benefits and risk to Biago of using the cloud technology. Now, there is no model over here, right? You just need to write the benefits and risk of cloud technology. So you might recall the benefits and risk you must have studied from the article of the examiner or from the classroom from your teacher about what are benefits and risk of cloud technology. Now, once you know that, you can use them and you can just tailor them according to Biago. So you must be knowing the journal benefits and risk of cloud computing or cloud technology. Then you can just alter them to the information given to you on the day of exam. And finally, draft an email to the CFO which evaluates the extent to which the disruptive technologies highlighted by CEO could impact Biago. So disruptive technologies would be given in the exhibit. You just need to think about that what will be the impact of the disruptive technologies on Biago. So how could they impact Biago? And generally, the word impact means positive and negative. So some of the disruptive technologies could have a positive impact, some could have a negative impact. So you keep that word impact open. You're not closing the word impact in SBL unless and until the examining team himself says the negative impact or the positive impact. You're keeping the word impact open in the SBL paper. So these are very journal questions we get in SBL exams, like cloud computing, like disruptive technologies, like six capitals. But yes, in the strategic part of the syllabus, which is the syllabus area C, we just saw a hint that how we choose to apply the strength and weaknesses and the risk assessment in the question I've shown you, and so on and so forth. Then how we pick the BCG metrics. So I hope you're all clear enough with this exercise which we have done today. I hope you will read the question very carefully and you will ensure that you're not just reading the exhibits, but you're also reading the requirement to be very sure of the model to use. And if there is no hint of a model in the requirement, and there is no hint of the model in the uh, exhibit, then you can answer the question without a model. But if the hint is given in the exhibit or if the hint is given in the requirement, it's better to use the model. It's better to use the model. But yes, if they're silent, then look at this. Look at this. Model isn't the best answer then. You can just answer the question journally without a model. Don't forcefully apply a wrong model. Is everyone clear with this analysis? Will this largely help you in the upcoming March 25 exams? Will you be reading the requirement and the exhibits carefully, all of you? Is everyone sound and clear? Okay, that's great. So that was the only purpose of this session, just to facilitate you about any confusions you have about forceful application of models and theories in SBL paper. The purpose was to mitigate that. The purpose was to clarify that you will only be writing models and answer when specifically asked for, and else you can just answer a question without a model. Wish you all the very best of luck for your upcoming exams. And if you have any further doubts and queries, just keep posting them on the SBL WhatsApp group, and I will be facilitating a quick replies to your queries. Prakhar, just please drop your query on the WhatsApp group immediately. Thank you so much, all of you. Study effectively. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.